It's time for ProAm Predictions.
Hello and welcome back to ProAm Predictions. I am Paul O'D, representing the amateur side, and of course, as always, representing the pros, we have Mr. Brian the Pikeman Moore of Bellator fame. How are you doing this week, Brian?
All right, Paul, what's happening, man? How are things with you?
Not too bad, no at all. I suppose we better touch on last week a little bit. Of course, there was our picks again didn't go great last week, but we both had Anders picked and we both had Edwards picked in the two no contests, and it looked like they were heading towards victories. Let's just touch on the main event first. What did you make of the stoppage in the Edwards one?
Yeah, it was unfortunate. It looked horrific, didn't it? Those gloves are they're such an issue now at this stage. I really think they've been an issue for a long time. Something kind of needs to be done. When you see a main event being cancelled under such, circumstances that's quite easily fixed, something needs to be done, in my opinion. But Edwards looked good at the start, but it's just one of those things, no contest. I'm glad it was no contest and not a DQ.
Yeah.
That would have been a disaster to end his streak, you know what I mean? But I don't want to see the rematch, if I'm perfectly honest. I have no interest in seeing it. I'd like to see Belal Muhammad get a good opponent next, but I'd like to see Edwards get a good, top 2, top 3 contender next. I wasn't that interested in that fight from the get-go. And I think Edwards kind of hit the nail on the head when he said the writing was on the wall until that incident happened.
Yeah, it's true. And I touched on this on the Matchmaker episode. Generally, these kind of contests do get run back straight away, but because of the way this one came to be, it just so happened that Muhammad was the only one available and would take that date. So that's the reason the fight was there in the first place. Making it again, it just holds both guys up. It doesn't make any sense, unfortunately.
Oh, and props.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, and props to Belal Muhammad, because nobody else was stepping up. That's why I'd love to see him get a good fight, but I just don't want to see a rematch. I think that I know Muhammad has had a lot of fights in the UFC, but I think Edwards is just someone that's earned a bigger shot right now. I think Muhammad could certainly, prove himself in the next up and coming few contests, but right now I think Edwards should be fighting a top 2 or 3. I'd love to see Belal Muhammad in a co-main event against a very good name too. But unfortunate, but it seems such a simple fix, these gloves. You look at a huge issue that the UFC had was with people popping for steroids, and they went through enormous lengths to have USADA on board, and hats off to them. But the glove issue seems such an easy fix compared to the extremes of USADA, and why they're still ignoring it, I don't understand. I don't.
Yeah, I suppose, look, they have their own gloves and they have them trademarked and etc. I know, I can't remember what coach it was, but someone, Trevor Whitman maybe, went with gloves, suggestion to them. Now, I don't know if it's that they don't want to pay the whatever fee they'd have to pay.
I think what it was is Trevor Whitman's gear is unbelievable. I've tried on the gloves. I haven't actually hit anything with them, but even the gloves are unbelievable. But there's so much thought and effort put into them. It's not just mass produced. But I think what it was I think if Whitman would have to kind of give up a huge percentage to the company, he'd have to sell a large. He wouldn't be able to keep all shares, something along those lines. So I don't think we're able to come to an agreement. Which is unfortunate because a simple change could make the world of difference to these kind of cards and these kind of events.
Yeah, very easy. And like you just look at going back to the Pride gloves, that it's just basically that concept, but they can't seem to get it done for whatever reason. I don't think they're too eager to get it done. Like, obviously this is a hot topic right now given the main event last weekend, but it doesn't happen regularly enough in big fights for the UFC to make a stand on it and to really be forced into change.
Yeah, I still, in my opinion, I see it too often.
Yeah,
I really do. And another thing is, I think the referees are right to say, palms up rather than palms forward. that's an easy fix. But if you've got a guy who's been training for years with the palms forward, because a lot of us train with big gloves where the hands will be open, and then all of a sudden we go into a cage and we are adjusting, and the adjustments can throw people off as well. But I don't think it's even about that. I just see it, in my opinion, I see it happening too often. And you've got guys then who are fighting, you don't know whether their eye is compromised or not, or and it's just like I said, Paul, I'll say it for the third time. It's an easy fix. Why not go with it? I know they have their glove trademarked, but Jesus, put a curve on it and keep it trademarked. You know what I mean? Yeah, they have enough money.
Definitely.
They can easily put resources towards it.
Yeah, and just touching on Edwards, of course. Who would you give him next? We just saw that Usman and Masvidal is booked. Another huge fight and huge card with 3 title fights to look forward to. No matter what you think of that fight in itself, it's a big card. But that leaves Burns, Colby, and Thompson as realistic next opponents for Edwards. Who would you put him in against?
I think they're going to do Thompson next, but I think they made a mistake. I think they should have. I know people might disagree with me when they say that Edwards doesn't deserve a title shot based on his last performance, but look at the string of wins he's put. I would put him versus Usman just because he's a fresher opponent coming in. Masvidal had a crack, and don't get me wrong, I'd love to see Masvidal. I know he's a big ticket seller, but put Usman versus Edwards as the main event, and put a week later, 2 weeks later, or even on the same card if you want to make it a huge card. Put Masvidal versus Colby, and have that as a title eliminator. That would be unbelievable. But there are so many options there to play with. I would have just liked to see Usman with a fresh challenge. I love Masvidal, but I don't think he's going to.
He's not the guy.
He's not the guy. No, and I don't know if Edwards is either. I think if anyone has the best chance, is probably Colby again.
Or Thompson.
And I don't know. Yeah, perhaps. But Usman in his last few performances has looked outstanding. People are talking about pound for pound now. Is he the best welterweight of all time? And don't forget that GSP was a welterweight, and you know what I mean? So it's whoever tops him, it'll be a special athlete and a fighter to do so. But that's the way I would have went with it. Am I upset that the main event is Masvidal and Usman? Absolutely not. That's a crazy, excellent fight. And I'm looking forward to seeing Masvidal with his experience and with a lot of training camp now, with extended training camp, get that chance. That was on a couple of days' notice, and he's still done 5 rounds. Yeah. So, and he'll have felt Usman. So who knows? In regards Edwards, yeah, I think Thompson will be a good fight. He's the more high-profile name, I think, out of everyone that you mentioned. I don't know if I'd match him with Burns straight off the bat, even though it would be a great fight too.
Yeah, for me, it just depends whether they do Burns and Colby like they've been suggesting. If not, I think Burns is the fight. But with regards to the Masvidal fight, I'm hoping for another 5-second flying knee KO there, but I'm probably on my own on that one. We do need to talk about some fights. We'll start up with the opening fight on the main card, or at least the opening fight as we can see it online. Again, every site has a different main card. But what we have here,
go on. Before you go there, what are our records coming into this week now? Are we counting these no contests, by the way?
You're eating the mic on me now, to be fair, so it's very distorted.
Sorry, I'm eager. I just want to know what our record is going into this week.
You're eager because you know you're winning. You're after pulling ahead by 1. Our records are 20. I'm 19 and 22, and you are, I believe, I think you're 20 and 21.
Not bad. Getting in there. And you know what? I think this card
towards a positive record, to be fair.
Yeah, but I think this card is a betting man's card. I think there's more obvious favorites, and we'll get stuck into it. So
yeah. So opening up the main card, you're all right. Opening up the main card, we have Cheyenne Boys versus Montserrat Ruiz. 2 girls making their debut. And this is one that I'm actually quite excited for. Cheyenne Boys looked phenomenal on Dana White's Contender Series. She's coming in 5-1, making her debut. Now, the only big test she's had to this point, it wouldn't even class it as a big test compared to the UFC, but she did fight an Invicta once, and that was her only loss. on the other side, you have Montserrat Ruiz, who went through the regional scene and then got to Invicta. She lost on her debut in Invicta as well to Danielle Taylor, but then she went and picked up a victory against John Elsa Morandin. Huge fight for me, considering it came about in very short notice, and Montserrat's just after stepping up. For that reason, and because of how good Cheyenne Boys looked in our Dana White's Contender Series, I'd be leaning towards Cheyenne getting a decision win here. But it's certainly a bit of a sleeper on the card for me. This is one that two young girls that could very easily go and make some noise in this division. And especially with Montserrat, even with a loss here, I think she's one to keep an eye on because she's out there, she's loud, and she probably wouldn't have got this shout right now, only for the opportunity of a short notice fight. So one to keep an eye on for the future for sure. What do you make of this fight?
I'm not going to lie to you. I knew absolutely nothing about these girls, bar the boys. Dana White Contender spot that she looked very impressive in. I looked through the girls' records; they weren't beating world beaters. Danielle Taylor fight stood out with Ruiz. Her record stands out. When you look at the experience and probably the better opposition, I would give that to Ruiz. But it's short notice. How much time has she had to prepare? Yeah, Boys has probably been told since the Dana White Contender Series. She knew that she earned a slot, so I'm sure she's been preparing hard anyway. Yeah. So that's why I'm going to lean towards Boys. But to be honest, the fight is it. I'm not putting a red cent on it, Paul. It's It's too close to. But it's good to see more girls getting their shot in the 115 pound division for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And in the next fight, you have Max Griffin versus Keenan Song, another very interesting contest here. Max, of course, in his last fight had that KO victory, the gruesome ear injury from Ramiz Brahimaj. One of the worst injuries I've seen in MMA, just visually wise. Before that, though, he did have the two losses, Alex Oliveira and Alex Morono. Notable wins, Mike Perry, but I mean, Max has had a tough run. He's 4-6 in the UFC. He's fought Colby Covington, Cowboy, Oliveira Cowboy, Alex Morono, Thiago Alves. Debuted against Colby actually, but he's going in against another tough guy, and a guy that has maybe like that. He had a tough enough run at the very beginning. He had the loss to Morono, but he's picked up some good wins along the way as well, including Callum Potter in his last one. I'm very interested to look back through Keenan Song's record, and I didn't get to see the fights, but this guy has previously fought Brad Raydell and Israel Adesanya somehow fought Israel Adesanya in his early on in his pro career. So I don't know how he managed that between featherweight and middleweight. Somewhere along the lines, fought both of them. But yeah, look, he seems experienced, and I would give the nod to Keenan Song. Again, I don't think there'd be a finisher. I think Griffin's very tough, but I would see a decision win for Song.
I have Song based on his his recent run, his recent performance. His last loss, like you spoke about, has been the opponent they have shared, which is Alex Morono, who's a great fighter as well. But he's looked good in his last two fights against Colin Potter, Derek Krantz. I think that he's just a bit more clinical. I think Max Griffin definitely has been in there against much tougher guys, but just based on recent form and a bit more momentum, I'm gonna go with Song on this one. I think that he gets it done, but like you said, I'm going to go by decision. I know he'll be riding high after his TKO performance in his last fight, but was in round one. But he's had a lot of decisions on the cards too. So I'm going to go with decision for Song here too.
I have another small prediction for this one as well, based on their last two fights, with Keenan getting the KO and Max with the gruesome injury. I mean, he had some vicious strikes against the cage in that one. I predict blood in this one. I predict this to be a gory battle. Both guys caught and walking forward. Just one of those fights where you worry about the next guys having to come in looking at the canvas.
What kind of a psychopath would you look at, like walking into Paddy Powers and putting like a tenner on seeing blood?
Both guys will bleed. Give me odds.
Yeah. Well, good fight though. A very good fight.
For sure. Next up, we have Adrian Yanez versus Gustavo Lopez. Another decent fight, but very well matched, in my opinion. Here, you have two guys that are fresh enough into the UFC. Yanez is on a 5-fight win streak. He big head kick KO win in his debut over Victor Rodriguez, and that was off the back of a 39-second KO on Dana White's Contender Series. This guy's a finisher. He has 7 KO wins, 2 submission wins in his 12 fights, and just comes out and tries to finish early. If he doesn't get you out of there in the first round, you're doing well. And he's gone in against Gustavo Lopez, who's been absolutely thrown to the wolves since signing with the UFC. Debuted against Murab Dwalishvili and lost by decision. And his next one up, Anthony Burchak, and managed to submit Burchak. Lopez himself has 5 KOs and 5 subs in 12 fights. And I just see the big difference here is both guys have that KO power. You'd lean towards Yanez on the feet, but I think if Lopez gets this to the ground, it's an easy, not an easy night for him, but a far easier night than slugging it out with Yanez. I can see Lopez picking up a submission victory here.
We finally disagree. Yeah, I think the bigger odds or the better odds will be for Lopez to win this, but I have Yanez in this. You rarely do you see that kind of power at bantamweight. He's stringing wins together. I think the two guys will I think it'll be a very fast-paced fight. I think both will be eager to both will be eager to land, and I think Yanez just has that little bit too much power. I think I can see Yanez winning by KO or TKO in this, and that's where I'm leaning to. I think this is a great fight regardless. Yeah, and Lopez has looked really impressive, and he has probably looked the more impressive in his career even with his losses. The guys who he's lost to are high level, but I'm going with Yanez on this. I think he's riding high. I think that I just like to see that kind of power at the 135-pound division. I think he gets it done.
100%, and of course there is the concern as well that Lopez, with 5 KO victories himself and in his record, is going to think that he can stand with Yanez and trade with Yanez, which will be a huge mistake early. You would imagine though a grappling guy that would be more leaning grappling than striking would be clever enough to come in and try and avoid those strikes early.
But one thing that you have to look at the weight classes. You don't see many submissions at 135-pound. It's the division for that, and the flyweights have the best scramblers. So it's very hard. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be takedown attempts. I'm sure there'll be takedowns. But keeping a guy at that weight class down is easier said than done.
Unless your name is Rani Yaya, of course.
Yeah, he looked damn good last week.
Very, very impressive. And of course, you picked up some money on that. Another bet in. You're absolutely killing it. Next up we have the heavyweights, and this one is it's such a mismatch. I'm genuinely concerned for Hunsucker here. He took the fight on really short notice, and look, fair play to the dude. His loss on Dana White Contender Series was to I can't remember his first name, but Jared Vandera, I think it is. Since then he has gone and got a KO victory, but the dude looked bad on Dana White Contender Series. Vandera ran through him. And of course we saw what Vandera, after he called out Spivak for his debut and just got handled by Spivak. He was the guy that was telling his corner, I don't know if I want to be in there.
Oh yeah.
So Hunsucker is the guy that got steamrolled by him on Dana White's Contender Series. And he's going in against Tuivasa, who he'll take a shot all day long, and he just throws from the hip. If Tuivasa touches you, you're going out. I'm very concerned for Hunsucker in this one. I think he could be on his way to hospital inside the first 2 minutes of this fight. I'm going with Tuivasa by KO.
Yeah, same as. I like Tuivasa though. I thought his last fight looked excellent. He's one of these guys who hasn't had the easiest run in the UFC as well. You look down through his record. He's had some tough nights in the office, but his last performance looked excellent, and it wasn't long ago. I think he'll be riding high on that momentum. I think he'll see that he's the clear favorite in this and come out with that. Then often though, you see guys like Hunsucker who is, he's counted out before that. Can he upset the odds? And if there's a division to do it, it is the heavyweight division where it only takes one shot. But like you alluded to Ivasa has a hell of a chin and he's well able to give it back. So based on that, he has more experience. And like I said, the momentum that he's going to be carrying into this one, I have Tuivasa by KO too. This is why I like this card. People from the outside looking in might be the most impressive. We have such a couple of big cards coming up, and they might be just that. I'll skip this one. There's a couple of real crackers on this card.
Yeah, no, look, Tuivasa is always entertaining. He's just one of those guys. It'd be remiss of me not to mention as well, after my big long spiel there, that Tuivasa did also lose to Spivak. So Spivak is a big step up for a guy coming off Dana White's Contender Series. But I just think the difference here is Tuivasa has experience in there. He's fought really tough guys, like you said, and he's almost impossible to finish. Hunsucker's a guy that if he doesn't clip you, he wants to try and grapple with you. And I can't even see him taking Tuivasa down.
Well, he does have submissions on his resume. He's a physical guy. Well, I know Tuivasa is a physical guy too. I haven't seen, like, anytime I see Tuivasa, he seems to be just swinging for the fences. I haven't seen him, like, not in my memory, to him stuffing takedowns. But then again, like, I've only seen a few of his fights, and a lot of them have been, stand-up wars. If Hunsucker's done his homework and he can get him down to the ground, who knows? But I think the odds are well against him here, and that's why we both have Tuivasa by KO. Yeah,
I just can't see him getting Tuivasa down. Tuivasa does have a submission loss on his record. I need to point that out. But Hunsucker's a big guy. He's 6'5", I reckon, 6'4", 6'5", going against that shorter, stout guy. I can't see him getting a takedown in any way. And if you try and engage and get closer to Tuivasa, you're going to get clipped. I think it's
that's the big. He has a lovely edge of range. He dictates the distance really, really well. So, maybe Hunsucker will attempt takedowns and get tired, and then the shots will be there for Tuivasa. But it's not as if there's a big. Often you see in the heavyweights a big weight discrepancy. You might see one guy at 265 and another guy at 240. But these guys are touching the scale both at 265 each time. I think last weigh-in was 265 and 263. He doesn't even have that advantage as such coming in. So it's going to be a tough night in the office. But look, we all love underdogs, don't we? But I'm not picking them here.
And fair play to him for stepping up. Of course, in the co-main event, then we have the featherweights, and this one I'm very excited for. You have Brad Raydell, or is it lightweights? Apologies.
Yeah, lightweight.
Lightweights, yeah. We have Brad Raydell and Gregor Gillespie, and we talked about bad matchmaking in the last one, or look, that fight came together, or whatever it is. This couldn't be better matched up. Gregor Gillespie lost his last one to Kevin Lee. Tough loss to take, and it'd be interesting to see how he bounces back from that. First losses are always difficult as well. But you look at some of the wins he's had: Yancy Medeiros, Vince Pichel, and then you have a guy who's just after coming into the UFC, 9-1, 3-0 in the UFC already, but he's never fought outside of Australia or New Zealand, which is also a concern. That traveling all the way across the world for the first time. And Brad Raydell as well was a KO artist before he got to the UFC, and he's had 3 decisions since he's come in. It's one of those where it could be a war or it could be a very tentative fight. I see Gillespie manhandling him in the grappling, and I see him getting a decision victory in this. Very easily could stop him late by TKO.
I have Gregor Gillespie in this without a doubt. I'm not saying it's bad matchmaking. I don't think it's bad matchmaking. I think it's a good. It's a very entertaining fight. But I think Gillespie has a lot in his favor here. Firstly, he came off a highlight knockout loss against Kevin Lee. Before that, he looked incredible.
Yep.
What I really like about him is he's got good, well-rounded skills. Good, but his wrestling is head and shoulders above most people in the 155-pound division, and he doesn't pretend that he's not. He gets stuck in. He goes for his doubles. He goes for his singles. He chain wrestles. He uses his wrestling. Well, you often see wrestlers and they use that just to stay standing. He will engage in the grappling, and he usually makes it work to his favor. We mentioned Brad Raydell. I'm not saying that. I know that the flight, like you're saying, and you have to get used to the travel. That is important, but more so, the level of wrestling that he has faced to date. I'm not sure has he ever faced a wrestler like Gillespie. Gillespie is top of the food chain.
You'd be surprised. I know there's a huge difference, right? So Gregor Gillespie is the only NCAA Division 1 champion wrestler left in the UFC at the moment. But Brad Raydell was fighting over there in Australia, New Zealand, and they fight a lot of Asian guys over there, and they fight a lot of Eastern European guys over there.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you somewhere along the line he met a Russian, and it's a very different style of wrestling. But no, he does have a submission loss on his record. I couldn't tell you whether that was if it was a Russian or not. I haven't looked deep into it, but he's met a couple of Russians between his amateur career and his early pro career, so he's used to the wrestling, I would imagine. But maybe it is a very different style of wrestling.
It's probably not the style I'm most concerned about. It's the elite credentials that Gillespie brings. His wrestling is outstanding, and it's going to be very, very hard to deal with. Another thing that is, you have to think about Brad Raydell. Maybe he's matched up for the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks. What he's been thinking about is these double legs, single legs. When someone is thinking about that, all of a sudden they're a little bit more exposed in the stand-up.
Overhand, right.
And that's where that's where I think Gillespie could do his work there as well. But overall, I think Gillespie will come in hungry from the loss that he took. I think he's going to come in with the better skill set. And I think he's going to want to put a statement out after losing in such fact. Look, this guy's a winner. He's an NCAA Division 1 wrestler. This guy's a winner. So that last fight that he got stuck on a highlight reel lockout, that has stuck with him. So you best bet he's going to come out with everything he has.
Yeah, and
that's why I'm picking him.
Are you predicting a finish or a decision?
I think it's going to be a very dominant decision.
Yeah,
for Gillespie.
I'm the same. It's tough to give him the nod that he'll finish him, but he very easily could take him out. He's ground and pound is some of the most vicious in the lightweight division, by the way. And
his striking is no joke. His striking is really, really good. It's just I can't not see his wrestling is just fantastic. So I really want to see that on display. And I think maybe that he might feel like his back is against the wall after that loss. Maybe I can see him resorting to what he's best at.
Yeah, for sure. And he's looking to hang on to that number as well alongside his name. Next up, the main event, Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland coming off the year of years. We touched on Neil Magny before and him doing it in 2014 and almost again in 2015. But in today's day and age, and especially the way 2020 was, it was 9 months of fighting as opposed to a year. To rattle off 5 wins, and not just any 5 wins, you had Jacare, Joaquin Buckley, who was another star last year, Darren Stewart, Anthony Hernandez, and the win over Ontiveros in that fashion. Is Kevin Holland on a fast track to a title shot, do you think?
The guy could be a superstar, I think. I think he has all the skills to do it. I think he's likable. He has the personality. And I think, I don't know. The 185-pound division is awesome. Does he I think he will need a couple more wins, but I can see him getting them. I really can. I think he's a likable guy. I think the UFC are going to push him. I think he extends his win streak here on Saturday night too. But I'm excited for this one. Brunson is a tough vet. He will not want to take a loss to this. And Kevin Holland, I'm going to call him an upcoming kind of a star. He's 21-5. It's kind of hard to say that when he's that experienced, but just with the year that he's had, the streak that he's on, and he's kind of only become known to many MMA fans lately as such, or in the last couple of years. It kind of feels that way, but I think it's going to be a good fight. But I think Holland has too much for him everywhere, and that's who I'm going with in this. I really can't wait for. I'm a big fan of Kevin Holland.
Yeah, for me as well. I think Kevin Holland gets it done. The concern here obviously is Brunson does have KO power, and he's proved that on numerous occasions. And he's been noted for taking out a prospect or two as well. You just look at his last fight, the win over Edmund Shabazian, and people were talking about Shabazian like he was the next big contender. And Brunson has kind of only lost to those elite guys, the Izzies of the world, Jacare twice. and we have to note as well that Holland going into 2020 was 3-3 overall in the UFC. Now, I mean, the guy debuted against Thiago Santos. So he had a couple of tough fights in there as well. But it wasn't all going his way at the start. So we know that Holland has been in tricky situations before. Very interesting, because Derek Brunson has a number 7 alongside his name and a win here for Holland. And he he knows the stakes as well. Holland knows that a win here puts him possibly one away, given the state of the middleweight division, if not 2 at the most. I think Holland gets it done, and I think as much as Brunson is susceptible to getting a KO himself, he's also susceptible to getting KO'd. I think Holland actually takes him out in this one.
I think so. There's a lot of great matches to make for either man after this. Wouldn't be surprised to see someone like maybe Paulo Costa, now that he's out of his fight, maybe him recouping and fighting the winner of this.
100%.
There's a lot of good matches to make. Brunson, I think there's 2 things that Brunson has in his favor here. One, he's a southpaw, but like we said, Kevin Holland is 21-5,
and so he was Joaquin Buckley, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. So he has plenty of experience versus southpaws. The other thing, I think Brunson might be a little bit more physical.
Yeah.
But I just think Holland is more skilled. I think he's a better, well-rounded skill set. I think he's slicker on the feet. I think he's better on the ground. And I think it'll be mainly fought on the feet for this one. For me, I'm going to go with a decision here with Kevin Holland. I don't think he's going to get the finish. I think it'll be I think it will be like 4 rounds to 1 kind of a job. I think he'll look dominant throughout, but I'm going to go with a decision on this. As much as I do want to see a finish, I think that he'll keep a good pace throughout and get 50-45 or 49-46.
So we're only split on the Yanez Lopez fight in this card, which is quite interesting. It's the only one we don't have the same. You picked Yanez, I picked Lopez.
Yeah, but you picked Boys, didn't you?
Shane Boys, yeah. So did you.
I picked Rui. Did I?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say that.
All right, so you're going.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No. Back. Whoa. No, I have Boys. I got mixed up. Sorry.
No problem. We do, of course, need to move on to our bets of the week, and I am so far behind in this; it is frightening. So I'm going making it up this week.
I didn't hear. Will you say that again? There, I couldn't hear you. My mic went. My mic dropped.
You heard plenty fine. So I'm making it up this week, and I'm going for it, which could be a terrible.
Broke?
Yeah, I'm going for broken at this time. So do you want to give yours first? And I give you mine then.
Champ goes first, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go with a treble here. Okay. Oh. So anytime I've picked trebles, they haven't came in. So I'm going back to it because I think there's more obvious trebles here.
Yep.
And I think with a treble you'll get good money. I'm gonna go with Holland, Gillespie, Tuivasa, all to win.
All to win.
Yep.
Okay, so you're playing it relatively safe.
Ish.
Okay. I'm on board with that. Mine are Tuivasa by first round KO. Stressing the first round. And I have Boys by decision in a double.
I don't like that bet at all.
Why
just
not?
to throw it out there. I don't think there's that much of a difference between Boys and Ruiz to put money on it, personally. And Tuivasa, I think Tuivasa will have, think about it for this way, I think that he's coming in, it's Hunsucker that's coming in with late notice. So it might play better in Tuivasa's favor to extend this fight a little bit longer.
It might do, but this is my bet. You don't need to concern yourself with what I'm doing over here.
It's your money. I'm just trying to help you out, Paul.
I'm down, I think overall so far, I'm down 68 quid since we started. You're down like 27.
We should be doing it over the last 4 weeks, remember? Or last couple of weeks.
Yeah. We're still playing catch up. I'll have almost caught up by this week. I can guarantee you this one comes in. Put your house on it.
Did you work out the odds?
Definitely don't.
No, it's no. But again, we're treated with a really good card. I'm very excited for some of these fights. I'm really looking forward to the Yanez Lopez fight. I'm really looking forward to see Gregor Gillespie. Hopefully his bounce back. looking forward to seeing Kevin Holland's potential star rise more and more, because I think there's, he has a very tough task on his hands versus Brunson, but there's so many good fights in that middleweight division if he can get by him, you know what I mean? So loads to look forward to with this. And in the prelims, you have Grant Dawson versus Leonardo Santos, which I personally think should be the opening of the main card. I think two excellent guys. Dawson, I think they should have got the nod for that spot. But Leonardo Santos, unbelievable jiu-jitsu. Didn't know until you said it that he's unbeaten in the UFC. So, and he's been in there 8 years, 7 fights. And then Grant Dawson, again, phenomenal wrestler, but 16-1, looked really good against Nad Narimani in his last fight. So, yeah, lots of good fights.
Yeah, the only guy with a longer unbeaten streak than in the UFC, at least, than Leonardo Santos is Khabib.
Oh, wow. In years or fights?
In years.
Years. Yeah.
So you would say John Jones, but then you had Matt Hamill, of course.
Why isn't he so active? It's 7 fights. Is it because he does a lot of jiu-jitsu outside it? Because I know his jiu-jitsu is unbelievable.
He does a lot of jiu-jitsu, and the dude is in his 40s as well. Give him a break.
He's a fresh-looking man for 40, isn't he?
He is that.
I remember him. Him grappling GSP in ADCC years ago, and that was the first time I seen him. And it was years later when he got into the UFC. I was super excited, but I think he armbarred GSP in that, which is no easy feat,
At
all. So it'll be that's a really, really interesting fight again. After that, there's nothing major that's catching my interest, if I'm being perfectly honest. But lots of great fights there on the main card. We got one or two really good fights there on the prelims, so loads again to look forward to.
Yeah, and of course, next week we have UFC 260 and our 2 title fights that we're being treated to. And we will be back next week with another ProAm predictions for that card. Until then, thank you very much for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you very much, Brian, for joining us again this week.
Thanks very much, man.
Thank you. Cheers, folks.